All right, folks, John Henning here with the Franchise Radio Show, and today we've got an exciting guest, Jeff Schoenberg, the Director of Franchise Development at Supporting Strategies. We're going to talk about a very unique franchise concept here today, folks, so buckle in, and we've got a great interview coming up. So, Jeff, thanks for jumping in with us.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me, and looking forward to it.
All right, good deal. Now, before we get into the franchise stuff, as many of our listeners know, I like to focus on the person first. Can you kind of give us a couple of minutes, who is Jeff? Give us the personal side of who we're talking with today.
Sure. I hope my background does provide a couple minutes, but I've been in franchising for 20-plus years, born and raised Cleveland, Ohio, so that means I'm a tortured Cleveland sports fan, specifically Browns, Indians, and Cavaliers. Live in Philadelphia since 2001, I'm sorry. My wife is from Philadelphia. This is where I met her, so we ended up planting roots here, and I have two kids, two sons. One is out of college, working in New York City, and his first job, he graduated this past year, and I got another son who's a junior in Indiana University. So two kids out of the house, so we're empty nesters, and it's nice, it's quiet, it's clean, so that works. What else? I play racquetball on a regular basis. I play softball in the summer in a men's softball league for the last 20-some years. Okay. And really enjoy the franchising space because of just how, as I describe my background, I get to learn about people's other backgrounds. Franchisees that are joining us get to know about their families and so forth. So,
Great.
It's a unique industry, the franchising world.
It definitely is. I mean, it's the only thing that doesn't surprise me in franchising is how many folks you end up getting to know within the industry as well.
Yep.
So, yep. Now, you mentioned a couple of things there personally I want to touch on. The Browns, that's a AAA baseball team, correct?
Well,
I just mess with you.
So, that's what I've been used to my whole life, It's like... I forget the comedian's name. He doesn't get any respect. The Browns don't get any respect. So
yeah.
They are an NFL football team. Unfortunately, they've had their trials and tribulations.
And then, are you any good at racquetball? Are you actually good, or you just play for fun?
I think I'm decent. I've been in the league for most of my playing years, and I guess if it's a really very tough league, I'm probably C+, B-. If it's not competitively, maybe B+, A-, something like that, in terms of category.
Well, there you go, folks. As you're looking at Supporting Strategies, now you can, clean off that racquetball racket and, challenge Jeff to a game, right?
And you know what? And if I lose, you get a discount on the franchise.
There you go. See, that's let's jump into the franchising stuff. You mentioned your background has been quite extensive in franchise development. Walk us through how you got into franchising and then how you got to be where you are today.
Yep. So my background is a little unique in that I grew up around a particular franchise that my father founded back in the mid-'60s, grew up in that franchise system, both from getting involved in it once I got out of college, but also as I was growing up, my parents were divorced, and this was a way for me to hang out with my dad. I'd go to regional meetings. I'd go to conventions, etc. At my wedding, we had a ton of franchisees from that specific network at our wedding. So again, that goes back to the personal side of the franchising space. So been around it, been around franchising all my life. Got into actually started with my dad's company in the field operations side. Did training, opened up new offices. Then I ended up opening up my own office and had that for about 11 years. And then I transitioned back into franchise development with that. And then I've been on the development side for the last probably 10 years or so with a couple different brands, Supporting Strategies being one of them now.
Okay, good deal. Well, let's talk about Supporting Strategies. Can you kind of give us just an overview, like the history of the company? How did it come to be? Who are the key players? Why does it exist? That kind of thing. Let's talk about the company itself.
So Supporting Strategies was started back in 2004 as a standalone business by our CEO, Leslie Jorgensen. She was an accounting, finance professional, saw the light, saw that outsourced bookkeeping was really taking shape and taking form. So she hung her shingle and started the business, not knowing she was going to launch a franchise 10 years later. But she built up a really strong business that allowed her to launch a franchise. So in 2014, Supporting Strategies opened up their first office, which is in New York City. And now 9 years later, given that we're in 2022 now, 9 years later, We have 79 franchisees across the country. Supporting strategies, franchisees provide outsourced bookkeeping and controller services to small and mid-sized companies, and I want to qualify the small to mid-sized.
Yeah,
we our franchisees work with probably companies that are on the small end, maybe $1 million in revenue, high end, $20, $30 million in revenue. But we also have a lot of franchisees who work with companies even bigger. So we pretty much like to say our bread and butter is small to mid-sized, but we can work with really any size company. So, our franchisees provide accounts payables, accounts receivable, bookkeeping, month-end close, financial analysis, payroll administration, HR, everything except taxes. We don't get involved in the tax side of things. But one other part about what's unique about the business is that depending on the franchisee's expertise and their industry experience so far, depending on the client they're working with, a lot of our franchisees go above and beyond that core suite of services. They get involved strategically with their clients. They may sit on the client's board, so they go above and beyond just the core, suite of services and transcend that vendor relationship.
It's interesting you said that, Jeff, because my very next question is what's unique about your franchise. And so many franchises, which, to their credit, are very cookie cutter, because here's how you do it, and it sounds like you have the systems and processes and everything set in place, but it also does sound like there's a uniqueness to your business model that allows your franchise owners to maybe do things like you mentioned, sitting on the board or being part of a company. I love what you said there about transcending the vendor relationship, because I would imagine once you're beyond that vendor status in a client's mind, you're not going anywhere, right? You're with them for a long time.
You hit the nail on the head. Our client retention averages around 5 years, so our clients are sticky. But, when I talk about that small company, that $1 million company, well, that $1 million company 3 years down the road might be a $6 or $8 or a $10 million company.
Exactly.
And then again, what we're talking about, our franchisee may have been a big part of their growth, not from they've helped them with their accounting, but they've also helped them with growing their business because of the and more part that they're providing, the additional advice, guidance, counsel that they're providing to their client. So our franchisees probably have a mixture of those type of clients in their portfolio, as well as just clients that they provide these services for. So it can vary.
Well, let's talk about the actual franchise owners before we start recording. I know this was an important one, and it's always an important one for me too, because I want to make sure that everybody that's listening to this knows, who are you looking for? Like, who makes the best fit? There's a lot of different types of successful entrepreneurs out there, but every company has kind of this preferred, these are the folks that do really well with our model, and not every model is right for every single entrepreneur, right? So tell us about who you guys are looking for, who makes the best fit for what you're looking for, and who does your business make sense for?
Yep. So initially when the franchise started, the thought process was accountants, CPAs, those type of individuals, which is still the case. But what we've evolved to and what we're seeing the most success with are the individuals that have an entrepreneurial spirit. They have a strong business acumen, so they don't have to necessarily be a CPA or an accountant because they're providing these type of services, and I'll get to that in a second. But they have the ability or the wherewithal to develop a strong referral network in their territory. They can do a consultative sale. They understand building relationships and getting involved in networks, professional networks within their territory. So, what we don't want franchisees to be is a practitioner who just sits behind the computer doing the actual work. So with regards to, not having a CPA or an accounting background, as long as you have that strong business acumen, you are entrepreneurial in spirit, you have no problem with networking, and maybe you've had experience with networking, had experience with not necessarily traditional sales, but you know how to create relationships and build relationships, and you're not worried, you're not worried about speaking in front of groups, like in terms of business networking groups. We will help you, and we do help you. We help our franchisees find their accounting professionals. So we actually act as an in-house recruiter for our franchise owners. We take the staffing load off of their shoulders. So we allow our franchisees to wear that business development hat. And as they start to scale, we will identify, qualify, interview, and then present to our franchisees qualified candidates that have that accounting background who are going to work on a part-time basis remotely to to satisfy to work with their clients, and they will be W-2 employees for that for our franchisee. But again, we are just acting as like that recruiter, if you will. They're not required. Our franchisees aren't required to use us, and they're not required to hire the people that the candidates we present to them. But to that point, in 2021, we had a record year. Our franchisees through us hired 391 people. Wow! So that's a lot of people that we found for our franchisees, and it's all included in our royalty, which is 10%. So that's very unique about us as well. But bottom line is we're looking for individuals with a strong business acumen, entrepreneurial spirit, have had experience or aren't worried about aren't concerned with networking and building those kind of relationships. But our client acquisition strategy primarily comes from a referral-based approach. Right. We do get digital. Their website's going to produce hits and so forth. But probably almost 50% of their client acquisition will come from their referral network that they build over time.
Yeah, and that makes sense. We started out talking about people do business with people, so this is definitely a relationship business. It's one of the reasons that they're going to stay with them. You mentioned a few questions ago about them being sticky clients as well, which is one of my favorite phrases. It's obviously a lot better to keep someone than it is to try and grab another new one, right? And something I just picked up on there too, Jeff, if you don't mind me paraphrasing, is that I think you're looking for somebody that wants to work on the business, not in it. You don't want that practitioner you mentioned, somebody that's sitting behind the computer, crunching the numbers and doing all the different daily activities. You're going to end. What I really liked about what you said was that you're not just saying, okay, here's the business in a box, let us know if you need something. You're actually helping them find the people that they're going to ultimately probably end up hiring as well.
We do, and that was born out of what Leslie learned over those 10 years as building her standalone business. She knew when she launched her franchise system, I need to be able to provide to my franchisees competent accounting professionals and help them, find those individuals for them versus putting it on them. So that's why we included in our royalty, and it allows our franchise owners, if they follow the playbook, to become, just to focus on business development.
That's great. I love it. I like everything that you're hearing is lining up with above and beyond what I expected as far as like when you were talking about what is the franchise owner doing, and I my next question is going to speak to this. What is the most common misconception that folks have when they come to you and say, Jeff, I'm interested in learning about supporting strategies as a franchise model. Tell me about the company. What is it that's in their mind that they think they already know about you?
Well, if a prospective franchisee is presented to me through a consultant or a franchise broker, typically they understand some of these things already. Right. But the individuals that come to us, organically, a lot of times I think, to your question, John, is that they're going to do the work themselves. So when they learn that we help them find their accounting staff, their accounting professionals, then that changes their perception, in a 360 for them. So that's a big part of it, that they think they have to do it themselves. So again, I like to harken back to the fact that you don't need to be a CPA or an accountant or anything like that, but you do have to have that business acumen. So and if you're a director of sales, but you've been involved with the finance side of the companies you've been involved with, however you've been involved with it, that probably works to your benefit for this. And then the fact that you already have a sales background. So we can talk to a lot of different people, but I think the common denominator is that strong business acumen and the entrepreneurial spirit and the ability to build relationships. And I'll just finish up on the fact that this is a term we use, our franchisees within their territory build what we call their evangelist network. And so that evangelist network is that base of referrals, and it can be outside of their territory as well, because it can be through LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Right. But our franchisees will acquire their clients through referrals from that evangelist network. None of our franchisees cold call. They don't knock on doors. They don't canvass buildings. And just one other point that I think is important, our franchisees can also scale nationally. As long as a company is referred to them from their evangelist network, no matter where that company is located, they can work with that company. So they can have clients outside of their territory.
I like it. So you've got the best of both worlds there in what you're saying, right? Yeah.
Yep,
right.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about the industry as a whole. becoming that supporting company or supporting team for that small business. Why should someone think about getting into this industry versus just why shouldn't I just go become a CPA? Why should I, get into the industry of providing these types of services to small businesses and medium businesses?
Well, I think a lot of times prospective franchisees sometimes question that when they're looking at a concept, like, why couldn't I just do this on my own?
Right.
But then when you peel back the onion and you realize all the things that go into starting whatever business it is versus joining a franchise that has everything in place, there's a playbook there, there's processes and procedures. You don't have to recreate the wheel. There's marketing in place. There might be some brand name recognition. It really is, in my mind, given that I've been around franchising for so long, and I'm not discouraging or downplaying someone starting their own business. But if they're looking at whatever industry, they should compare what it's going to cost for them to start their own business versus using a franchise system that's already in place. And they'll find if they do the analysis, it's probably much more cost effective. Even though in the prospect's mind's eye, wow, this franchise fee is a lot of money. Well, when you look at where you're going to be in 3-4 years, it really isn't in terms of your return on investment.
It's interesting. I actually use that one myself, Jeff, too, when I get to learn a concept. I always talk about just franchising in general is what I call a third base business. Okay? Mm-hmm. If you're a sports fan at all, you know that a solid double over and over and over again wins any game, right? Okay? Yep. You don't always have to hit a home run to win every baseball game, but franchising to me, when I think about it compared to this, sports analogy, is franchising starts you out on third base. Right? Yep. You don't have to get it wrong every time. You don't have to strike out a bunch of times in order to hit that solid double, right? You're starting them. You actually said something I use all the time when talking with folks is, we're going to get you to where you would be in 3 to 4 years on your own, right? You're going to get there so much sooner. You're going to be starting from a better position. You're lowering that risk. You're increasing your chance of success. I call franchising all the time with a third base business, and people are like, what do you mean by that? Well, it starts you out at a much better starting point. Just think if you started on third base in every baseball game, you'd win, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I'd love to hear.
Well, I don't know if you know this, John, or not, and I have this in one of my presentation slides. Do you know who George Nadoff is?
I do not.
George Nadoff founded Boston Market, which became Boston Chicken. And I have a quote from George where he writes, "Franchising gives you the ability to start on third base." So.
Oh, really? No way.
Yep. So, and I saw that in some publications, so I copied it, and it's in quotes, and obviously I give credit to George there. But you picked up on it as well. So
I am totally going to go look that up after we're done. So
George Nadoff, Naddaff.
I thought for sure that was going to be John Henning created that quote. And now you've stolen my thunder. No,
you said it differently. So, you've got your credit and he's got his credit.
Well, I'm good with either one. But if you think about it, it's true. Like, the ability to come into a proven model. I mean, we talk about systems and processes. And I always talk to, and we'll get into the cost of the franchise here in a minute, but, the real cost of not buying a franchise or not joining a franchise is really what they should be evaluating, is because they're still going to go everything that they need to start with you is still going to be everything they need to start it on their own, right? Yep. So I talk about the delta difference, not the difference, the delta difference, which is the difference of what you're already going to pay in both cases and the difference of what you would, pay in addition, and what value are you getting for that franchise cost. So that actually leads me right into my next question, okay? Just generally speaking, and I know how franchising works with documents, and we'll refer people to the franchise disclosure documents. Just give us a rough idea, a range, if you would, on what the startup cost is for supporting strategies.
Well, what's nice about our business model is that, and before I get into that, just to follow up on what we were just discussing, the other value about a franchise is that you've got X number of other franchisees doing the same thing you're doing, who are a level of support as well. So in addition to what you get for your royalties from the franchisor, and of course the franchisor has a vested interest in making you successful, because then if you're successful, they're successful. You also have your brethren, if you will, the other franchisees that you can tap in terms of how did you do this, how did you do that, whereas you don't have that when you're an independent. But in terms of our startup costs, which are which I'll just quote from our FDD, which is what the FTC guidelines state that I must do. Our startup cost is from $77,930 to $103,190. Now, keep in mind, if you not that we're apples to apples to every business out there, but that's a very low investment compared to a lot of other types of businesses out there, prospective franchisees looking at something. And, we have a very low overhead because everyone works out of their home. All of our franchises work out of home, and that's not because of COVID. We were doing that before COVID. We've always been remote. All their staff is remote. There's no need for signage. There's no need for office space, of course, because it's home-based. There's no need for a car or a van to wrap it. There's no need for inventory. And that startup cost of $77,000 to $103,000, that's including also working capital. So if you back out the working capital, which you always need, we're then, then we're even much lower when you compare us to other businesses, which may take $300,000 or $400,000 to get open. So very low overhead, but high margins. And one thing that's unique about our FDD that we're very transparent in our FDD. We have a very transparent item 19, which is, as you know, the financial representation section. So prospective franchisees see real numbers; they just don't see percentages.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. So folks, what Jeff's referring to when he says the FDD is the franchise disclosure document. There's a whole set of documents that we're going to talk about in a minute here in the process. But during the process of due diligence, when you're looking at each other, Jeff's company will provide you with a copy of those documents. And what he's saying is about that item 19 is there's 23 different items, 23 different sections of the franchise documents, and the item 19 is the section where the franchise company is going to disclose to you, if they do this, they're going to disclose to you certain numbers, and you get a chance to kind of peek under the curtain as to what other franchise owners are out there doing. So I love hearing that, Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah, good deal. Let's talk about the process itself. Every company has their own mutual due diligence process where somebody says, hey, Jeff, I'm interested. Take us through a few of the milestones.
Sure.
How does someone learn about your franchise?
Sure. So, when a prospective franchisee, I begin with a prospective franchisee. I first have what I call a discovery introductory call with them, and I walk them through, sort of a 30,000-foot overview of who and what Supporting Strategies is, why are they looking, et cetera, just to, get to know each other. And once that call is over, I then follow up with it's not an end-all and be-all, but we have them take a predictive index assessment test, which is a tool to match them up, see how well they match up to our opportunity, and then I share that, that report with them. Assuming they're still interested and they want to move forward, then the next step in our process is to spend an hour with me, and I do this call every other Wednesday, and typically there are more than one prospective franchisee on the call, but I call it our discovery experience call, and we do a much deeper dive into the opportunity. Once that call's over, and assuming they're still interested, then I would then send out the FDD, have them fill out a short application, and then, as you know, and the audience here will learn this, validation would occur, due diligence, and that's where prospective franchisees really learn or get the real meat to their questions, because they're talking to individuals, franchisees, current franchisees who've been in their shoes, went through the same process. So once validation is completed, and then assuming they want to move forward, then the last step is what we call a meet the team call, which is probably equivalent to most franchisors' discovery day. Right. We do that call again on every other Wednesday. And again, this is all virtual, so we do this in a Zoom setting. And on the meet the team call, now we have the rest of the senior leadership on the call. So Leslie will be on our call, our CEO, but as well as VP of Technology, VP of Sales, VP of Marketing, VP of Training, et cetera. So the prospective franchisee can learn how each department is going to support them as a franchise owner. It also allows them to connect the dots as well. And on that meet the team call, we also will have potentially other prospective franchisees in the call. So on both main calls that we have with our prospective franchisees, they're potentially hearing other questions, they're hearing other perspectives from other prospective franchisees. So after the meet the team call, then it's really, at that stage, it depends on where the decision-making process is for that individual. If they're ready to move forward, then we just confirm the territory. They need to put together an entity, typically an LLC. Once they have that done, we put the agreement together, we get them onboarded. Or if they have more questions that need to be answered, if they want to talk to more franchisees and want to talk to more people at corporate, we'll act accordingly to best suit what they need. and help them get to the point where they can make an informed decision, whether that's joining us or if they decide it's not the right opportunity, then we thank them for their time and we move on.
Now, given what you explained to me about their ability to have referral sources and work pretty much anywhere that, they get a referral from, my next question might be a little bit different for you. Normally I ask, what are some hot areas? Like what areas of the country, if you had 20 people that were interested, where do you want them from? Like, is there a specific hot spot for you? Or said, man, Northern Atlanta, we would just crush it there and we don't have anybody there? Or because of the way you guys worked, is the actual physical location as important?
The actual physical location is important because they are going to develop that specific geographical territory, that footprint, whatever that looks like.
Okay.
So, and every territory that our franchisees have a minimum of 20,000 businesses in those territories. So they are going to try to penetrate that market and become what we call a trusted business advisor in their territory. But again, because we work off this referral network, this referral-based client acquisition strategy, if they do get a client that's referred to them outside of the territory, they can work with them. They just can't advertise or join, networking groups outside of their territory.
I got you. So it's a true, referral. XYZ company's brother runs a different company in a different area, and they're referred to them.
Exactly.
That's
right.
acceptable, but they're not going to market outside of their territory.
Correct.
I see. So you're protecting the franchise owners that own a territory because you want that protection as a franchise owner, right?
Correct.
Correct. And if they happen to come across one, I see. I like that. I like
and I guess just to hopefully maybe make it a little bit more clear. So a new franchisee is going to, in their geographical territory, through our guidance and our training and our help, we're going to help them learn how to identify and join the proper local business networking groups, chamber of commerces, make relationships with accountants, attorneys, CPAs, bankers, business brokers, anybody and everybody that deals with businesses. And like a snowball effect, it just starts to build and build and build. And that's how they start to acquire the clients. And there is a digital side of this. We do help them with that in terms of social media, their website, which is search engine optimized, and we're actually revamping that for 2022. But again, they're not restricted to their territory if a client is referred to them. And another nice part of that strategy is that whenever they're talking to a new client, it's never that, the dynamic is not, it's a warm call because that client has either expressed interest or they were suggested that, hey, you should talk to John or you should talk to Jeff about outsourcing your accounting. So when you engage with that client, it's not, hey, I got to give them that 30-second elevator pitch, or they're going to, cut me off the call or cut me off the phone.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Now, take us through here at the end as we're wrapping up. I always like to give you a couple of minutes at the end. Why should somebody think about franchising with you guys specifically? I mean, I want to go back and re-listen to this because I think that a lot of folks thinking about this type of business might have a lot of those misconceptions, and just by listening to this episode, they'll probably answer a lot of their questions and then reach out to you. But number one, make sure folks know how to reach out to you, okay?
Yep.
Website, email, phone, whatever, smoke signal, and then give them the, why franchise with supporting strategies.
So again, getting back to the ideal candidate, if they fit that category, then by all means, I'm happy to talk with them. And I think some of the differentiators in terms of our business, and I know we're not, it's not apples to apples everything they may be interested in, but they're interested in a home-based business that's a B2B type of business. Some of the differentiators for supporting strategies is that one, low investment, $107,000 tops is our startup cost compared to $300,000-$400,000 for other types of businesses. It's home-based. There's no need for a lot of the things that come in with a brick and mortar or any other type of business. The talent acquisition is included in your royalties, so we help our franchisees build their staff as they start to scale. All the marketing support is included in the royalties. There's no ad fee. A lot of times we're looking at a X amount, royalty plus another ad fee. Our revenue and costs are very closely matched. I mean, labor is a good example of that. It's a direct variable of the revenue, so they never have more staff than they need. This is a really nice thing about this business is that it's a recurring monthly revenue model. So every month, our franchisees debit their fee from their clients. So they're not chasing clients for payment. They're not there's no accounts receivables. Cash flow is good. They're not agreeing to 90-day, 120-day payment terms.
Right.
I think we qualify as being somewhat recession resistant. Even in COVID, we were still our services were needed. So our services really never go away. Again, network-based, building your evangelist business development model, no cold calling, and you can scale nationally. And I think another unique thing about us is that our founder, CEO, Leslie Jorgensen, she did this on her own for 10 years and then launched the franchise. So she's a CEO that really can relate to everything her franchisees are going through. And she's very involved in strategizing, doing business plans every year with their franchisees that want to do that. She's not a CEO that's separated from the business, has never really been in it, doesn't really understand it. She's walked the walk and talked the talk. And we're 9 years old, almost 80 franchisees. We've had a good run rate, and we're not this gigantic group. So when you join, you get lost in the shuffle. We're still a very small, manageable group that's growing.
I like what I hear, Jeff, and appreciate your time for sure. Now, give us how should folks be reaching out to you if they're interested?
And again, John, thanks for letting me speak to your audience. My email address is my first initial J, my last name Schoenberg, so it's JSCHONBERG @supportingstrategies.com. And my cell phone is 215-285-8108. And our website is www.supportingstrategies.com. And then the franchise website is supportingstrategiesfranchise.com.
Well, that's pretty straightforward, Jeff. I appreciate you sharing everything with us. Hey, folks, we were joined by Jeff Schoenberg, Director of Franchise Development at Supporting Strategies. Jeff, thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. Have a great day.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thanks for jumping on in. My name's John Henning. I'm the host of the Franchise Radio Show. Thank you so much for listening in, folks. Have a great day.